Hello, welcome to Power Fridays Live. I'm your host, Janelle Pulley, and Dave Gresso is on break tonight. And this evening, I have the pleasure of introducing to you husband, father, U.S. Air Force veteran, top motivational speaker from Atlanta, Georgia, Demont Pope. Good evening, sir. How are you today?
Good evening, good evening, good evening. That's a phenomenal introduction. I'm doing even better after that.
Yes, but you deserve a great introduction, and we look forward to hearing more from you as you share with us who you are and your story. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. As you've already described, I am a husband. I am a father of five amazing, wonderful children. I'm also a motivational speaker, author, um, workshop facilitator. I facilitate leadership curriculums throughout K through 12 and colleges and universities, specifically students from ages 10 to 18. So I do a lot. I wear many hats, but of course, I'm most proud of being a father and a husband. That's what brings it all together.
That is beautiful. That's amazing. So, what had you become a motivational speaker and work with the youth in the areas that you serve?
Well, it started a long time ago. I grew up in the church, so that's my background. I am a man of faith. Let's be clear on that. So I grew up in the church, so I ended up with a microphone in my hand early on. I found out that I had a voice and I had a gift. My background is actually gospel rapping, so I've always been passionate about music, and I've always wanted to make a difference. So I found out that even when I spoke without an instrumental behind me, that I was still able to make impact, right? So growing up in the church environment and realizing that it was still people outside of the church that were struggling, it gave me a desire to want to pursue speaking on a higher level. So what I end up doing is getting around people that were doing it on a high level, kind of how I wanted to do it, maybe even better. And I got some training, I got some coaching, and it pretty much groomed me into who you see today.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. So what was it like growing up for you, in the church and
Yeah.
in the environment for which you grew up?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I think that's a trick question. All right, so let me breathe on this one. It's kind of heavy because for me it was growing up tough. Growing up was rough. It was kind of hard. I grew up in what we would call a dysfunctional household, a broken home. Right. My father, my biological father, he was there early on, but he was a Vietnam veteran. Right. So he came back PTSD, the whole nine, self medicating. So he drank a lot, and the alcohol made him angry, and the anger made him violent. And unfortunately, my siblings and I, but my mother, most of the time was a victim of that. So growing up, seeing that early on, it kind of played an instrument of trauma. It placed trauma on me early on. So dealing with that and growing up in environments where it's drug infested, crime everywhere, it's kind of tough. But at the end of the day, I was brought up in an environment where we were showing love. We were taught to love. We were taught to obey God. We were taught to get to know and build a relationship with God. So my relationship with God kind of kept me stable in the midst of a turbulent environment, if that makes sense. So I was able to take all the hurt, all the pain that I was seeing growing up, right, turn it into a passion, not knowing that God was using my pain to propel me to my specific position of purpose. I had no idea when I was growing up in that environment, enduring the rejection, because my father, he got arrested and then he kind of went to prison for about a year, but he never came back. So I dealt with the rejection. So here we go, dysfunction, broken home. Now I'm dealing with rejection. We already talking about poverty. So basically, what I'm describing is adverse childhood experiences, right? So it was a lot of adversities, a lot of barriers, a lot of obstacles for me to have to overcome. And it's only the grace of God that I'm here. So I choose to use my voice to allow others in that same situation to know that I'm the evidence that you can not only make it out, but you can also thrive and pull others out too.
Wow, that's an amazing story. So I just am so amazed by your strength,
Mhm,
by the strength that your mom had, I'm sure, and all of
mhm,
your siblings, had to endure a lot. There was a lot that went on, that we don't know.
mhm.
People who do suffer from PTSD, what all they are dealing with. And so
Absolutely.
for you to be able to manage all that at a young age, I commend you for that, and I'm
Mhm.
very thankful and very grateful to God that you had sought refuge in him, in
Yeah.
God, to see you through that situation. And so, like, what part of the city, I know you're from Atlanta, so what
Mhm.
part of the city of Atlanta are did you actually grow up in? And can you tell us a little bit about, I hear we just shared about your childhood
Yeah.
and about, how things were, in the church or in the schools that you attended, because being, you know, I guess a statistic
Mhm.
nonetheless, like an at-risk youth now, you're probably
Absolutely.
labeled. How did you manage with that?
Absolutely. I was definitely labeled as an at-risk youth. But specifically what environment I grew up in, that's a loaded question again, because it's almost like you can pick a side of Atlanta, and I've lived there for a couple of years or so. Because we growing up with the financial hardship and the financial difficulties after my mom split up, we had to move around a lot. So what it was, I was the new kid in the new neighborhood time and time again, every year actually. So I went to about 9 different schools by the time I even got to ninth grade. So I was already in my ninth school. So that kind of give you a glimpse of how many different neighborhoods I've lived in, right? But it all started, as far as I can remember clear enough. I was living on the west side of Atlanta. I graduated elementary school from Boyd Elementary School. I used to have to walk down Hollywood Road to where that forked right into Bankhead. It's now called Donald Lee Hollowell, but back in my day, we called it Bankhead, right? So I went from Boyd Elementary to West Fulton Middle School, right? And then I had to move from the west side of Atlanta to the east side of Atlanta off of Second Avenue and Boulevard, which is now called Hosea Williams. My
Mm.
grandparents had a house on Boulevard off of Second Avenue. So I kind of grew up in both environments. So I have a little bit of the west side, a little bit of the east side. And in the midst of that, we were on the College Park, East Point, up north to Doraville, outside of Atlanta. So I've been all the way around this city. So I'm definitely a ATL thoroughbred, born and raised Atlanta, Georgia boy.
They say AT alien, AT
ATL,
alien.
ATL, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wow! So that's amazing of all that you had to endure and
Mhm.
meeting new people and people meeting you newly. So
Yeah,
meeting people that just comes second nature.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
And so,
absolutely.
how does your story now that you're sharing about how you grew up and about the impact that you had, personally in,
Mhm.
growing up, graduating high school, going and pursuing a music career, how can you tell us how you, really, reacted to, I guess, the different things that life brought you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be all the way This is a safe place, right? We talking about being honest and transparent on here, right? So it was
Honest
hard.
transparency, yes.
It was
Hmm.
hard. I dealt with a lot of. I didn't know it at the time, but I struggled with mental health issues, right? I struggled with depression a lot because here I am growing up in the church environment and I'm reading this word and I'm really trying to become what this word says I'm able to become. But in my reality, I'm walking around and I don't fit in. I just told you I went to about 9 different schools by the time I'm in ninth grade. That means I'm the new kid every time I turn around. So I didn't fit in nowhere. My biological father wasn't there to really teach me what a man was supposed to be like or the type of man I was supposed to become. So here I am. Everywhere I looked at the male role model, to me, it was either the drug dealer, it was the gang member. And unfortunately, I became one of both, right? Even though I still had the church upbringing, growing up in the environments in which I did, the environment had such a toll on me that I wanted to fit in so bad because it was like a jungle. Here I am, a sheep, right? Here I am being taught to turn the other cheek. Here I am being taught to give. Here I am being taught to love and forgive. But I'm growing up in environments where it's violence. I'm growing up in environments where there isn't any forgiveness or it doesn't seem to be any forgiveness. I'm growing up in an environment where there's manipulation, right? I'm seeing it. I'm hearing it. I'm living it. I'm trying to survive it. So in order to survive in certain environments, you have to kind of blend in. So I end up becoming a part of my environment. And I struggled because I ended up being depressed, not even knowing that I was depressed and just realizing I'm waking up angry. Why are you angry? I don't know.
Hmm.
Frustrated. Why are you frustrated? I'm not sure. Unsatisfied. Why are you unsatisfied? I don't know. Nothing makes me happy, right? Some days I eat good, some days I don't eat good, but it's not because food isn't provided, but it's because sometimes I have an appetite, sometimes I don't. I'm not realizing that mentally I'm struggling. I'm not realizing that I'm going through, right? All of the trauma that I've experienced is taking a toll on me. And here I am still fighting because, like you said, I had dreams of becoming a famous rapper, a famous recording artist, right? The fame never came, but I was living my purpose. I was living my passion. I had an opportunity to impact others' lives, and I didn't realize what God was really doing. Although I was growing as I was going through the pain, sometimes I felt stuck. I felt isolated, like nobody understood me, like nobody seen me. Like, why didn't my father love me enough to come back for me and my siblings? Like, why did I have to be abandoned or rejected? You see what I'm saying? Like, why is it that I have to struggle so hard to make friends in these neighborhoods where everybody else is already friends? And then I realized these are not just struggles that I endured, but what about the children of today? And that kind of fuels my fire. That kind of fuels my motivation. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but I can't really mention all of that without thinking consciously about what's happening today with these young people that are enduring what I've endured and even worse.
Mm. Yes, we see it on the news every day.
Mm,
We see the young men out in the streets. We see the young men
yeah,
who've, just go and knock on someone's door and it's the wrong one, and what happens. And then, we see how the police answers calls in
yeah,
neighborhoods that are impoverished. And so to know that you are a person who's been victorious of going through that situation and living at
mhm,
those times, we're really blessed to have you here to share your story
mhm.
and really impact some youth. And knowing that, when you were going through it, there wasn't technically like a diagnosis back in the day, right?
Right,
And and
absolutely.
and so, being, part of certain communities, it's like, oh, well, they just said, oh, he's just angry, or he's just upset, or, they just always had to answer why to your situation. It's like they always, I say they, meaning school systems.
Yeah,
They knew your background. They
right.
they had your folder, and they from here to here and the different schools, and then they have your history and your track record, precedes you. And so, knowing that, growing up in the church, knowing what the right thing is, of course, the
Mhm.
Bible says, train up a child in the way that they should go,
That's
and when
right.
they grow old, they should not depart from it. So we have that foundation,
Yeah.
and so that is your sustainability. And so when did you learn that depression was a thing for you?
Listen, it was, you know what? It wasn't, I want to say, I'm trying to make sure I speak correctly. I don't want nobody laughing at me, okay? So I want to make sure I say this properly. But I definitely was an adult. I didn't
Okay.
know in my teenage years, in my childhood years, no one really taught me anything about mental health. Like you said, I was just angry, but I didn't know that I was angry. So because I was picked on a lot, I was bullied. Like, we talking about some stuff that I went through in school that fed this trauma that I was already living through, right? I didn't
Mhm.
realize there was a real thing as suffering from depression or mental health until, believe it or not, when I got honorably discharged from the military. I'm an Air Force veteran, and having served in the Air Force and being deployed, upon my return from deployment, that's when I was informed that I had suffered from PTSD and a personality disorder. But here's the thing: they said that the post traumatic stress disorder, the PTSD, came from before my military enlistment, meaning that it came from the environment in which I was brought up in. So here I am now being informed about a medical diagnosis for something that existed prior to my military enlistment. Now it's affecting my future because now I can't do what my career was. Now I'm being pretty much laid off by the military, right? For lack of
Wow.
better terms, it's an honorable discharge, but it simply says medically you are unable to do, right, what we expect or what we need you to do in this position. So here we go, some more trouble, right?
Mhm.
That's more isolation because I actually fit in that environment. I was really good at it. I finally found something other than music, right? I finally found something other than church. I finally found something other than communicating that I was good at. And now here this is being stripped away too. Now it kind of
Mhm.
felt like my dad being drug away to jail and never coming back. Now I'm being
Mhm.
introduced to the trauma, right? Now I'm being reintroduced to rejection and abandonment. Now I'm isolated again. Now I'm lonely again. And guess what? Here's that thing called anger again. And I
Mhm.
realized that all of these things were working together, right? But it was all affecting my mental health, which was also affecting my physical health because now I'm trying to do whatever I can to ease the pain. I'm trying to cope with the pressure. So I'm doing what most people do. And in that case, we trying to self-medicate. Why? Because we trying to get through the depression. We trying to get through the pressure. Now these people done diagnosed me with a medical condition and I don't know what to do about it, right? I can't just go get a normal job because all I've been trained to do is what I was doing in the military. So now what do I do? What do I
Mm.
do? You see what I'm saying? It was tough. It was rough, but I'm still
Yes.
here. Look at me now.
Yes, as they say, look at me now. Look at me
Yeah.
now. And oh wow. So with the government, I mean, well, the military,
Mm,
we'll say government in that regard, having, you know, honorably discharged you and now there are benefits, veteran benefits, I'm sure,
absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
you're able to tap into in that regard. So hopefully they came through for you on that account accord since they were the ones who found the problem
Yeah.
they shared. So it's almost like, someone once told me it's like you're either in a storm, going through a storm, or coming out of a storm. So
Mm,
you being discharged from the military, as I hear it, it was like a blessing in the storm.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And so how did you manage to come out of that storm?
Listen, now you got these questions. You should have submitted these questions beforehand. You know what I'm saying? You backing me into the corner with these amazing questions, but I love it because this is what people need to know. Because it's real people dealing with real situations. But God can pull you through any situation. Now, here I am trying to transition, right? I finally became somebody, right? I
Mm.
finally became somebody in a position of leadership. The first time I ever heard the term natural born leader, right?
Oh,
So now,
yes.
now I'm being seen as a natural born leader as opposed to this timid, this passive, this person that was bullied, this person that was abandoned and rejected, right? Now you're somebody. Now you're honored, you're respected, you have this uniform on, right? Now you're doing this job that everybody respects you for. And now
Mm.
all of a sudden it's being taken away because of something that you, right? Me, myself, I had no control over physically. There was nothing I can do to put my hand on it and say, okay, I can make this go away, right? So
Mhm.
now you got to find yourself in a situation where it's kind of like Abraham, right? We're gonna kind of I like the I'm from that word, right? I told y'all that. So Abraham, right? I'm reminded of Abraham when he had a conversation with God and he told him to pick up everything and go to a place that I will show you. Now, Abraham, not knowing where he was going,
Mhm.
not knowing how long it was gonna take him to get there, Abraham just had to say, you know what? I'm gonna make a decision. He had one or two choices. He could have said, you know what? God, you crazy. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing because I'm living good here. Because he was living
Mhm.
good. God just said, okay, go to a place I will show you. Now, Abraham being obedient. I can imagine there was some times where Abraham was kind of confused. He was kind of lonely. Why? Because he had people that he was responsible for. He had possessions that he was responsible for, and he didn't have a roadmap. He didn't have a blueprint. Nobody really told him how he was supposed to get to the destination. All he knew that he was supposed to go to a place that he will be shown that place when he get there. So I was kind of in that place, not knowing where I was at. God, you done brought me up. You done gave me all this wisdom. You done given me all this leadership. You done trained me. You done turned me into whatever I think I am today. And now you're telling me I can't even do what I was trained to do. I can't do what I was taught to do. I finally made my mama proud. And now I'm out here going to a place that you will show me. But you said
Mhm.
if I read this word, you said if I prayed, you said if I preached, you said if I did these things, you said if I treated my neighbor the way that I wanted to be treated, if I love my neighbor as I love myself, you told me to love God above all things and have nothing else. You told me to do all these things and I did it. But now I'm out here like Abraham going to a place where you will show me.
Mm.
I felt lost. I felt abandoned again. There's that word abandonment. Not knowing that he was with me the whole time, not knowing again that this pain was literally propelling me into my position of purpose because it was giving me experience and exposure. It was exposing who I really was in times of difficulty, in times of panic, in times of chaos. It was showing my vulnerability. And in that moment, guess what? I had to lean on something stronger than me because I realized I wasn't strong enough to handle it. So I had to lean on the God that was powering me. And I had to humbly submit myself to wherever he was guiding me. So I ended up with jobs that I hated, right? Dead end
Mm.
jobs because I had to make ends meet, right?
Mhm.
I ended up being talked about, right? I ended up being feeling like I was back in high school again sometimes because the money that I made never seemed to be enough. Now, here I am like Abraham. But again, we just talking about, I'm giving you the real, what it was like getting to where I'm at today, because we're not at that part yet in this story. So y'all bear with us. But right
Mm-hmm.
now, I'm still going through this thing called life. I'm doing this thing called life, but I'm doing what I have to do to get by. Relationships, friends come, they go, right? My anger, my instability, my mental instability was causing me issues, y'all. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is things. Imagine how many men, imagine how many black men have gone through trauma, not just military veterans, because we know there are tens and if not hundreds of thousands, but imagine those who are growing up in the same type of war zone that I was growing up in, where they seeing shootouts every day. But wait a minute, we didn't have social media when I was growing up. But today they're witnessing shootouts right in front of their eyes via social media, via live stream, via Instagram, via Facebook, via Twitter, via TikTok, whatever. And so we got kids that are growing up traumatized as I was. And
Mm-hmm.
now, if I can bring you back up to date, that's why I felt isolated. That's why I felt restricted. I felt abandoned. But I had a promise like Abraham did. I had a
Mm-hmm.
promise, and that promise kept me, and here I am today. So I'm gonna let you get to the next question because you see, I'll get carried away. You gotta reel me back in. You gotta
No,
reel me back in.
hey, this is all about you, Pope. So that you can tell your story. So because I know one of the listeners tonight, he says powerful, or she says
Mm,
powerful. So
grateful.
you have touched some hearts tonight
Wow.
with your story and what you shared,
Wow.
and now to know that husband, I mean, I'm not
Mm.
sure what part that fit into, being in the military, coming out of the military, getting married and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And, with that, where that, happened. But now it's like you didn't fit in at the jobs, you
Yeah.
know, dead end jobs you shared. So now you did music and now entrepreneurship. It's like, oh, that's the answer.
Yeah.
No more dead end jobs.
Yeah. 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 Listen.
So, how does that fit in your story to know that, hey, all of a sudden, not with all of what I've been through, no more jobs. That's not for me.
Mm,
This is what God has for me. These my steps have been ordered by God, and this is where He's leading to me to. He's prepared a place for me
mhm.
now to impact the world with
Yeah.
my voice.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Entrepreneurship.
Now, now that we're here at entrepreneurship, and you mentioned you didn't know how the marriage and all of that fit into that story. So we're just gonna fast forward to this part in entrepreneurship because there would be no entrepreneur me, there would be no successful me without the wife behind me that's powering me, that's allowing me, that's helping me get to where I'm going or where I've arrived to, right? So here it is. I'm on these jobs, dead end jobs. I hate the jobs, but I'm a father, right? I'm a husband. I got to make ends meet, but I'm unfulfilled. And I know that God has told me to go to a place that I will show you. But he's given me a help me, right? He's given
Yes.
me a queen. He's given me somebody that I needed that I didn't even know I need. Because when I told y'all about West Fulton Middle School back when I was in the 6th grade, right? This was a person who she and I were best friends, and I would call myself walking her home from school. See, sometimes you never know, right? You never know like who are in those classroom with these students. You never know your husbands or your wives, your business partners could be right in those classrooms, right in those environments with you, right in those church pews with you. But here it is. Fast forward to this turbulent time in my life, and now I've been blessed with this woman, this queen that sees something in me when all the job is paying me is peanuts, right?
Hmm.
Pennies. But this woman sees something more in me, sees something major in me, and she gives me an opportunity to focus 100% on my purpose. And it started with the 6 month trial. You got 6 months. Go ahead and focus because look, you ain't never had a problem getting a job. Job is not the issue, right? I'm not concerned about that. But
Yeah.
what we are concerned about, you're not finna keep coming in this house, bringing this sadness in this house because you don't love what you do, right? So we gonna create an atmosphere, right, so that you can be who
Hmm.
you are supposed to be, so you can get out here and live your best life by helping others do the same. So I gotta honor my wife Nikki first of all because without her, the entrepreneur me wouldn't exist, right? Because she and I both had to make some sacrifices, right? It was some long nights. She and I were just laughing not too long ago because it was some moments where we was having conversations and we literally thought that we both, I had made a big mistake and that she had allowed me to make a big mistake or even encouraged me to make a big mistake. But sometimes when you're out here in this wilderness and you have a purpose, you have a calling. Let's not forget that we doing purpose work. When you're out here and you have a purpose on your life, it's not going to always be easy, but sometime God would always send a helper, a ram in the bush, so to speak, a hedge of protection, an angel in disguise. God said he would send a helper. He would send the Holy Spirit. Whatever you need, he'll send that. In my case, he sent my wife because she allowed me to become this entrepreneur. She allowed me to make investments. She and I both made investments, right? Because now, as an entrepreneur, and now I just told you I come from dead-end jobs. I came from being a trained military veteran, right? And now here I am in a new space. So I had to be educated. I had to get informed. I had to learn a new craft, a new trade. I know what I had to do. I had to add and multiply the gifts that God had already given me.
Come
Yeah,
on. Come
that's
on.
what I had to do, Janel.
Come on.
I had to multiply the gifts that he's given me because I was born with the voice,
Yes.
but I
Yes.
had to earn the story. I think they missed that. I was born with the voice, but I had to earn the story. I had to live the experience so that I can talk with the conviction.
Mm.
Yeah. I had to live the experience so that I can talk with the conviction and have the authority, right? Enough to author a book that give you a snapshot, a glimpse of all the pain that I've gone through. Since we're talking about entrepreneurship, it was the pain that created a story. And that story created a platform. And that platform created an atmosphere where impact and change was made. And people were identifying that, wait, this guy is a little bit different than other people when they grab a microphone. Like this guy is a little bit different, right? When we have him on our podcast, like when this guy speaks, something happens, not just to the people that he's speaking to, but something happens to the people that's around him. And what that is, my friend, in case you don't know, there's something about being gifted. There's something about being talented. But then from my upbringing, there's something else that's called the anointing. And see,
Yeah.
when the anointing is a part of a situation, it is the anointing that is allowing the yokes to be broken. It's the anointing that's allowing the impact to be made, and it's allowing the voices to say, you know what? I got to tell somebody about somebody because I remember a man named Jesus, Janelle. I don't mean to come over here and preach, but
Yes.
I remember a man named Jesus, and when he did what he did for those that he did it for, I remember him saying, hey, don't you go run tell nobody. Don't you go tell nobody that I just did that for you. Don't do that. And they go tell everybody.
Hmm.
So when you've been impacted, when you've had an encounter, when you had an experience, right? When you've really
Yes.
made transformation in somebody's lives, somebody gonna go tell somebody. And that's what led me to becoming the entrepreneur before you, because I had to live this hurt. I had to live this pain. I had to live this shame. And then I had to have the courage to
Mm-hmm.
invest in myself to be taught what to do with it. And then
Yes.
I had to face it. And then I had to cook it up in a meal and prepare it and put it before the public and not know. I had to put myself before people to be scrutinized, to be talked about, for more embarrassment, more laughter, more judgment. But through that came impact and transformation, not just my own transformation, but I've been able to impact thousands of lives across this whole country. I'm impacting what, over 30, 40, 50 different countries on podcasts. Like we talking about major impact, but I was just that kid. Somebody might be a kid that's listening to this, Janelle. I don't know. And they may
Yes.
be growing up in dysfunction. Like somebody marriage might be on the line. Look, listen, I ain't get it right the first time. I'm a two-time loser, Janelle. I ain't supposed to be happily married according to statistics.
Mm.
Failed at it twice. Come on,
Wow.
y'all. But it's something about purpose. They forgot what we was talking about, Janelle. It's something about purpose.
Purpose. Purpose.
It's something about purpose. And what God taught me is he taught me how to put that purpose over pointless excuses, which is the title of that book. You know what I'm saying?
Show your book.
Yeah. He taught me how to put purpose over pointless excuses. Right?
Yes.
Right? And that purpose allowed me to become who I am today. But it's not about me. It's about what God is doing through me. So when I serve, whether it's the church, whether I serve in the schools, right? Whether I serve in the corporate spaces, whether I serve in the nonprofit spaces, wherever I serve at, I'm humble and grateful enough to know that it's not about me, but it's about what he's doing through me. So when God put people before me, my mission is to give them whatever God told me to give them. And that's what I'm
Yes.
doing out here.
Well, I tell you, you are doing amazing, abundantly above what anybody could ever ask
Mhm.
for or imagine. So, thank you so much,
I'm
for your
grateful.
contribution, and thank you for being a man of service. Thank you for honoring God and listening to God as He has ordered your steps,
Mhm.
because we don't know.
Yeah.
It's like we wake up from moment by moment by moment. We now live, and it's like, okay, God, he's been with you us all the way, and so what do you have for me? What's
Yeah.
next? And so when you think about what's next for you, Demont, and in your entrepreneurship, and honoring your marriage, and having a beautiful wife by your side, your helpmate. See, you know, you didn't see that, when you were in the military. You didn't
No.
see that when you were a child, to say, hey, I'm going to grow up to be a man, and I'm
Mhm.
going to grow up and somebody's going to love me for who I am and see the best in me, you know. And that's probably a song somebody
Wow.
wrote too, right? He saw the best in me when everyone else
Yeah,
around me,
that's
see the
definitely
worst in me.
that's Marvin. That's
Yes,
Marvin now.
Marvin Sapp. So, Nikki saw the best in you,
Yeah.
and there's other people who can see the best in Demont Pope. So
Mhm.
tell us how everything that you experience, how we can get your book, because
Mhm.
you're amazing. This is only like the tip of the iceberg, y'all. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
he just shared just, look, bits and pieces, but you need to get the book, and it's available on Amazon
Yes.
and through his website. So we're going to put up the website here in a minute.
Absolutely.
But um, purpose over pointless excuses. What were your excuses? I heard you say that you could have
Yeah.
had this excuse of how you grew
Mhm.
up. You could have had this excuse of
Mhm.
being told that you couldn't do this job
Yeah.
for the military, but pointless excuses. How did you determine that the excuses that you could have made, because
Mhm.
obviously you didn't make them, because you wouldn't be who you are, where you are today, if you lived in a world of reasons or in a world of excuses. So how did you discover that any excuse that you could have or make up is like pointless, because
Mm.
that's not who you are?
See, I realized ultimately that I had no choice. I had no choice, and I realized that nobody cared about the excuses I was making.
Hmm.
Right? When I realized that I had no choice but to do something about it myself because nobody cared about the excuses, that's when I realized that every excuse was pointless, right? And I got to a point in my life where I had to become something that I had never seen before, like you said, in my environment. In order to do something that you've never done, or in order to have something you've never had, you got to do something you've never done. In my case, I had to become somebody that I had never seen so that I could be able to do the things that's necessary to be done to have what I wanted to have. Right. So the purpose over pointless excuses, of course, it's an acronym derived from my last name, Pope. But I decided not just to give myself something to strive for, right? But I decided to create something that would build a legacy, not just for me, but my children and my children's children, so that as we say our name and as we walk around and as people greet us, we are literally saying that purpose over pointless excuses. Whatever your first name is, there is purpose over pointless excuses following that, meaning that failure is not an option, right? Excuses are pointless because guess what? You don't have a choice but to make something happen, and nobody cares about the excuses anyway.
Hmm. That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. And I love the Proverbs 13:22. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's
Come
children.
on.
So you live in the word.
Amen.
You live in the
Amen.
word. In
Yeah.
everything that you do and all that you've done, you're living the word. And God gave you that word, and gave you the foundation. The foundation was shook, but you
Mm.
said, hey, I'm still standing. I'm still here. So
Yeah.
I am so grateful and thankful to have met you, and
Honored.
to know that you are a author, a top motivational speaker, and you're available.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You are available. So how can we reach out and get you to come to our community event, get to come to our church event, come to our school, our
Yeah.
college. There'll be many people listening to this broadcast, and we want you to share it out. We want you to listen again and share it with someone. Share it with some young person or someone that you think that may be struggling, or think that, hey, we're not a licensed psychologist or anything here to say, oh, well, they're going through something. They wake up angry. They're not
Mm,
happy with their way that their life is going. you know this broadcast is for you. This message is for you. This message is for your loved one. So, please do, Demont, tell us, how do we
mm.
get in touch with you so that you can
Absolutely.
come and help transform lives that you
Absolutely.
touch.
Very, very simple. If you need me to come out and impact your students, need me to come out, impact your educators, need me to stir up your company, your employees, whatever you need, whether it's corporate, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's educational, I am available. Simple. DemontPope.com. Hit that booking link. And guess what? Somebody from my team will get back to you real shortly, real promptly, right? Again, everything social media at Demont Pope. DM me, whatever you got to do. If you got some questions, DM you, boy. I get back at you. Like she said, I am available, right? So you try me and I'll prove you. DM me, see when I DM you back. But everything is Demont Pope and DemontPope.com. You can get the book available on Amazon, and you can also get it right there at DemontPope.com by clicking on book and merch.
Wonderful. And I see you're wearing your merch, your hat, the D
Yes,
for Demont.
yes, yes,
Your
yes.
shirt comes in different colors,
Absolutely.
so, whatever color your tennis shoes are, you got a color t-shirt to match.
That's
So,
right.
and then I know that you're probably even coming out with some tennis shoes too,
On the
walking in your
way.
purpose.
They are on the way. You better speak. You better prophesy. You ain't even know you was in the spirit. Come on with
Okay,
it.
okay, that is so wonderful. And I am so grateful that you joined us tonight on Power Fridays Live, because this has been a powerful conversation, Demont.
I'm grateful.
Your mission, your purpose, knowing that that you are living your purpose, you're walking the purpose that God has for you. You did not bury your talents.
Mm,
And you realize that God brought you through to be here with us today, to be the entrepreneur that you are, to have your voice and to share it with others, because we all have a story, and you didn't let yours end up in that place
mhm.
that,
Right.
a lot of stories, a lot of books end up
Mhm.
that never get written, a lot of stories that never got told.
Yeah.
So I am so blessed and thankful to have you with us tonight. I'm glad that God has his hands on you
Yeah.
and your wife and your family, to know that you are living your purpose over pointless excuses, that there is a Demont Pope who rapper.
Yeah.
So, you still rap, don't you? You still
Absolutely.
music is still
Absolutely.
in
I
your
do.
blood.
Yes, it is. It's still there.
Okay, great. And all the positive messages. So if you're looking for a positive message for your youth organization, for whomever, then just give Demont Pope a call. Go, slide into his DMs like he
Yeah.
said. Go to DemontPope.com. Get the book. Purpose
Yes.
over pointless excuses.
Yes.
And when you wake up and when you think about what you're going to do or what you're not going to do in whatever day, and you're going to make an excuse for not doing something, you're going to think about this conversation right here.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm making it. No, pointless. This excuse is pointless. Get up, do something,
Yeah.
make it happen, because you are the ones. As Lamar Tyler says, we are the ones that we've been waiting for.
Mm,
So, God has put an anointing on your life, Demont Pope. I
mm.
am so grateful and thankful that you've come to share this time with us this evening. I know you could have been anywhere on a Friday night. I know it's probably family night for you. So we are going to say thank you so much. Please do
Thank
reach
you.
out to Demont Pope at demontpope.com. Connect with him on the YouTube channel, Facebook
Yes.
channel, Instagram channel, all social media, and you will get a word, because I get your shorts every day. It pops up, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's just a snippet, but
Yeah.
it's a
Just a little
bless.
something. Just
It's
enough.
just it is like, oh my gosh, oh, and I needed to hear that
Mm-mm.
moment. So
Trust me.
your messages, your shorts, and everything, they are such a blessing, and I know you've touched many lives, and you're looking to touch many more lives in
Absolutely.
all over the world. So here we are, contact demontpope.com, get his book, and let him come out and spread love and joy, and let your young people know that it's greater is he who is within me than he is who is within the world.
Mhm.
And the greatness is in you. So be, do, and have the greatness that you desire, because the greatness is in you. And Demont, any final words before we close out today?
Last thing I just want to say is gravity and negativity is always at work to hold you down. That's why when I come around, all I tell them is hold it up now. It's your big bruh, Demont Pope, aka Mr. Purpose over pointless excuses. Yeah, telling you that purpose looks good on you. Now go have a great day.
Well, as we say, thank you so much. Be, do, and have the greatness that you desire, because the greatness is in you. Please join us next week again for another episode of Power Fridays Live with Janelle and Dave. Have a blessed weekend, everyone. See you next week. Thanks.